Hey, y'all. Hope everybody's having a good Saturday afternoon. I'm Steve, Hobo with Wood. For those that don't know, first time viewers, welcome. There's only a handful of us here. It might be there'll be some more showing up here in a little bit. Let's adjust the camera a wee bit. Uh, I'm going to go over a lot of things today. I'm going to address some of the comments from YouTube that I haven't replied to yet. Questions and comments in YouTube, and I haven't had any emails that I'm going to address this week, but I'm going to also go over what I've been doing since the last last live stream. Worked on some inlays, learned some problems with overscanning. I didn't learn. I had a refresher kick in the butt. I already knew this, but I forgot it, and I'll share that with you. Talk about some book matching that I did with some this is ash. I'm going to talk about making some chests, and going to go over a lot of topics today, a bunch of things that I learned, and discuss what was it, Thursday? Yeah, Thursday I did the live at West Penn Hardwoods. It was not a great video. It did not look as bad as it did for you guys. For me on the camera, it did not. On the camera phone as I was filming it, it was actually a really good image, but the quality was subpar on what actually got to you guys on YouTube. It was pretty horrible. But the meat and potatoes were there, and just getting to see how big this place was and how impressive it was. And I'm going to go over a couple of things people couldn't find on the website. I'm going to show you that on the website on where you find these project packs. Carl looked and couldn't find them. And a lot of the stuff they have is free freight, and some of it's advertised that way, some of it's not. And I'm going to show you how to look for that, because someone commented, and we'll see it in a minute, about, these guys are a good ways away, but Rockler's really close. And by the time they pay the freight, they felt like Rockler was going to be just as good a deal. But these guys don't have freight on a lot of this stuff. So you still get it at wholesale and free freight. So it's still worth looking into. And I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't get any kind of compensation from West Penn. I'm just trying to help you guys out and make you aware of what's out there. So I'm going to jump over here to YouTube comments real quick and address some of these comments and questions, and give the latecomers time to get here before we jump in here and start talking about the chest. And it's a lot more went into designing this and coming up with a really nice finished piece, more so than just creating a box. So let's go look at these comments, and look at the comments and questions. All right, Sun Centaur has commented on the Celtic knot video, and says that this worked really well the first time. Now every time I get so far, the nodes go away. Usually around the time I group each pair of circles. At that point, I can't get them back. What am I doing wrong? Yeah, they are going away as soon as I group them. Not sure why I got away with it the first time, but now I can't do it again. I keep watching the video step by step to see if I'm missing something. Well, you answered your own question. They go away when you group them. You cannot see nodes when items are in a group. And LightBurn's kind of funky. You can look at the nodes of an individual piece, but if you select a group and go into node editing, you cannot see any of the nodes of those items in that group. But if you select the group, go into node editing, and then hit ungroup, it'll show you all of the nodes in that group, which is kind of weird. But I don't know. Well, actually, there are times that you would want to see nodes in an entire group of objects. Uh, but they don't have to be grouped to do those. But let's take a real quick look at LightBurn. Um, let's do new. No. Okay. So if you have a polygon and you got an offset. Oh, did I switch? I didn't switch. Nope. There we go. So I drew out a polygon and we're going to do just a 10 millimeter offset. Do not delete. Say okay. So if I look at that and I look at the nodes, there's the nodes of that one. That one's not converted to a path yet. So let's select it, convert to a path. Because you have to be a path to see the nodes as well. So there's the nodes of the inner one. There's the nodes of the outer one. But if you were to take these and group them and then go to node editing, you can't see any nodes. But now that you have that as a group, you've gone into node editing and you hit ungroup, then you'll be able to see the nodes on both of them. So the answer to your question is, as soon as you grouped them, then you made the nodes not visible. You can't see the nodes of a group. So that's the answer to that comment. And now let's go back over to YouTube. Harry suggested that part of my problem, or resolution of my problem, is to record my cameras on SD cards and then import those and edit them into something. I don't have SD cards on any of my cameras. I could buy them, could do that. But someone else suggested that I start trying to use OBS instead of the active presenter that has been giving me nothing but problems. And I'm making some progress with OBS. So I will be able to start doing some videos. Hopefully, I'll be able to record some videos showing the laser doing its thing and provide it or show it in the video as well using the OBS and my other software. Bill said that this was incredible. I have known of them, but of course had no idea they were that large. And he was referring to the tour of West Penn Hardwoods. They are huge. And the video I was talking about with the print and cut, my advanced tipped designs, someone else had made a comment about using a fence inside the laser to keep the wood square as you're sliding it through for doing with the pass through. And I was aligning it off the corner of my honeycomb, and Steve Springer commented the squareness of the honeycomb is immaterial. It's the path, the laser head that matters. As you rightly pointed out, being off by a millimeter at the top of the board will result being off several millimeters at the bottom. The only way to have true accuracy is have the two sides of the board be perfectly parallel, same at top and bottom. If you're buying pre-cut lumber, this is rarely true. And two, clamp a fence to the honeycomb and cut it with the laser. Now that board fence is going to be perfectly parallel to the path of the laser. And this would be a step that you would need to absolutely do if you're using probably any other laser besides the Rolly. The honeycomb is perfectly square, and the honeycomb is in a fixed position, and my gantry and my X and Y axis are perfectly square, and everything, it's precision. So he is correct in what he was saying about the squareness of the honeycomb not necessarily being relevant. But when you're working with a precision piece of equipment like the Rolly Lasermatic, then you can get away with not having to do a lot of those steps. Using that fence does help. It shouldn't be necessary with print and cut, because part of the idea of print and cut is it's supposed to take into consideration the fact that you may have gone askew with your board as you're moving it if you've gone off the right registration marks. But I found that it was better and more accurate and gave me better results if I did use a fence, even with the print and cut. Karen McDowell said that they needed to plan a field trip so they could come down and we could do a walkthrough together. Would love to see how some of the wood can be used in the Rolly Lasermatic. And sometimes it's easier to see things through your vision. Told me. Glad to see him feeling better, and have a blessed day, and thank you. Yeah, and Matthew is the one that said that he wished that West Penn was closer, but Rockler's 20 minutes away, and with shipping, the price is pretty much the same. I'm going to show you on the website here in just a second. Dave said, thanks for the wonderful tour. Mark said he wished that his hobby places had those project packs. The project packs are really a great way to figure out what hardwoods you like to work with, especially if you have the means of processing your own wood. I got this in a project pack while I was up there Thursday, and this is maple, and it's 9.5 inches wide and 3/4 of an inch thick. 3/4 of an inch thick, just under 10 inches wide. And look at the wood grain in this. This is really, really pretty wood. And I'm going to process this down to probably 3 boards, at least 2, if not 3. But the grains in here are absolutely beautiful. And some of it, that's got a lot of like curly, and even some a little, maybe even a little bit of bird's eye. But there were multiple pieces in this project pack, and they can be processed and make some really beautiful wood. And those are going to be great for doing my inlays. In fact, what I'm doing with these, I'll process them down and get a piece that's going to be at least 10 to 12 inches wide. And I'm creating a piece that's going to have multiple inlays in it. This will be Paduke. Then I'm going to do Osage orange down here for the ice cream cone, and then use Paduke, which is a red, up here for the ice cream, so to look like it's a scoop of strawberry ice cream on a cone, and all that'll be inlaid in the maple. That's going to be gorgeous. But what I learned while I've got this was my first practice piece, and this was some ash that I put together, book matched it. You can see the center of it right there, and there's the knot and the knot where they were ripped. But what happened is I put this in the lowermost left front corner, and I went with Dimitri's suggested settings on the ash wood, and it's really, really high rate of speed. And I was fine going on the x-axis. But when I started going on the y-axis, because of the amount of overscanning and that high rate of speed, it caused it to get out of alignment because it didn't have enough room for the gantry to go all the way for the overscanning. So it caused it to jump, if you will. And you can cause misalignment. And you see up there where it started burning on up there where it should have been burning inside the initial engraving. And that was because of overscanning. And I had it too close to the bottom corner, and I didn't allow enough room for my material and the overscanning. And I knew that. I just forgot it because it's been a long time since I had run into a situation like that. But I went ahead and continued playing with it and practice doing some inlays there with the Paduke and the ash. It's going to look better in the maple, especially with all the curl. Let's see here. Back to the comments. I'm not sure who this is because they just at user such and such. I said that made him seasick, love you, but this was bad. And then continued on with another comment, bad picture. Yeah, I had no idea just how bad it was because, like I said, in mine, when I was doing it, I actually had a good picture on the camera, just poor connection. If you make it to West Penn, if you're semi local and you get there, you'll see they're kind of out in a distance it's big, huge buildings with metal roofs. So it didn't have the best cell reception. And that's what I was doing, was just with the phone. Um, and I mentioned that West Penn is doing some international shipping. So if you go to their website and you see some stuff that you maybe like to have and you're not in the United States, you can contact them and ask them about international shipping. And the reason they can't just do across the board international shipping, because they deal with exotic hardwoods, and not all species are permitted in all countries. So you might find something you really, really like, and it's like, oh, I'd love to try that, but they can't ship it to your country because of the the import laws. They said, oh, nope, that's a banned species. Can't bring it into the country. And this one, I kind of got a kick out of this one. At Portland, I don't know if that's at Portland, Indiana, or Portland. I don't know, but because of their lack of punctuation, I don't know if this is a comment or a question. You going to video chat or going to do lasering videos? Question mark or comment? I don't know. Well, I'm doing both. And if you want a channel that's going to hit a button and you're going to watch my laser run for 20 or 30 minutes cutting out something, and then you get a free file with it, then this ain't the channel for you. I'm guessing that most of you watching have a laser. And if you want to watch a laser, you can watch your own laser. You don't need to watch my laser. I am going to be showing videos using my laser and how I set things up. But this will never be a 90-minute video of you watching my laser run. I might occasionally, on a Tuesday or Thursday video, I might occasionally upload a video of me just making a project without even me being a talking head. Just the laser cutting out something and making the assembly, and then there you go. There's a finished piece. But I'm trying to convey what I learn on a weekly basis to my viewers and subscribers. And so if you don't like this and you don't like, then this ain't the channel for you. I invite you to go over and watch another channel. I wanted to address this one before we get back to Carl's comment. Larry Stoss, he had a question regarding the 48-inch or using the pass-through and the print and cut. And I found that it was easier, or I got better results by creating two initial target points so that I was telling the laser where the top of the board was at, so it knew how far to come down before it started engraving. Well, his question was, hey, great video. I do have a question about the original two targets work with it. I have a question about how the original two targets work with the additional targets. Triangles or parallelograms, or if parallelograms, I assume the wider the additional points, the more accurate the input. I'm lost on where you came with triangles or parallelograms, Larry, because I only put little bitty circles in there, and I used little bitty circles on the corner of, for the initial ones, for the corner of the material. And then I move the laser to the left corner and assign it that position, and then move it to the right corner and assign it that position. And by using the small, little bitty targets, then it's got a very fixed position to go to. I don't know where you're coming with the additional targets being either triangles or parallelograms, because you're only giving it a fixed position of an X and Y coordinate. So you don't, if you actually made it a parallelogram or a triangle, And if it wasn't directly centered over that X and Y coordinate, then that might be a problem. So create a little bitty circle, a perfect circle, and put it directly over the point you want it to be at. And that is where you set your target positions, either your first ones or your third ones. It doesn't matter. I don't know where, or the question, didn't quite understand why you wanted to use triangles or parallelograms or what have you. All right. So Carl and a few others mentioned issues about not being able to find some of the stuff that I showed you in the live stream for West Penn. And I'm going to show you this, and then we're going to get into this design work, because now we've got a bunch of you showing up, and I'll come back and look at the questions, and then we'll go into how I created from a basic box to this finished piece here. And this is with my zebra wood. And we went from that to this and did a lot of this, but starting with a very basic design from Gravini, but with a lot of modifications. And we'll get there in just a second. So if we go over to West Penn's website, and like I said, I don't have a dog in this fight at all. I'm showing you this for your benefit, and I have no benefits from it whatsoever. But this is the home page. And if you go to products, and then you come down here to thin dimensional lumber. Thin dimensional lumber. And you click on that one, and then it's going to open up the page for that. And this is where you have all of the different species that they have available at the time in thin dimensional lumber. And then down here it is alphabetical, and then it lists it by thicknesses, dimensions, half inch, quarter inch, eighth of an inch. But up here at the top, these are the boxes that I showed in that video. They just started doing these. You get, I think it's 5 pieces. Yeah, 5 pieces in each box. And it tells you here what your sizes are and then what species are in those boxes. If you have a way to process your own wood, getting the thicker material is the better deal. But if you don't have a way, if you don't have a bandsaw or a planer that you can process your wood with, when you get this stuff, if you go with the eighth of an inch or the 3/8 inch material, it's precision. It's you don't have to process it. It's ready to go. And they're, unlike some of the stuff I get, like my premium Baltic birch, they say it's 3 millimeters. It's about 2.7, 2.6, 2.8. Some of it's 3.1. It fluctuates. If their stuff, if they tell you it's an eighth of an inch, it's an eighth of an inch. Their website tells you it might be plus or minus. So they have their disclaimer on there just in case. But unless it's the last board that might have been processed, and they usually, if it gets, too much of a variance, they don't include it in that. It goes into their seconds. But if they tell you it's an eighth of an inch, it's eighth of an inch. They tell you it's 3/8, it's 3/8. But here, these boxes, they have available in a half inch, quarter inch, eighth of an inch, 3/4 of an inch, and 3/8 of an inch. And here are the different species that are in these boxes. And it tells you the prices for the box, which is 5 pieces. So here you got 5 pieces at $80. 80 divided by 5, you're getting it for about $16 a piece. And that's 3 inches by 24 inches. And these, what I use these, the 3 by 24s for, that's where I get a lot of my inlays. A 3-inch board is not fit for much, but you can cut out all the inlays you want to use and then use that. Doesn't matter if it's, because most of the time you're doing designs, words, text, and you can get all that you want to out of a 3-inch by 24-inch piece. But if you click on one of these and you add it to the cart, here, in fact, there's the 1/8 inch at $60 some. You add it to your cart, add it to your cart, view your cart, and then go to checkout. It's $63.71. And to get a shipping, you have to put in your information, calculate shipping. Free shipping. $63.71, free shipping. But if you want it expedited, it's $35. But there's $63.71 for 5 pieces of wood. $63.71 divided by 5. It's $12 a piece. And if you look at those species and you go over to the Rockler store and you look at Rockler's price for that exact same 3x24 in that same species, it's going to be $25 to $30, $35 a piece. And so they when they say they're wholesale, they are truly wholesale. And you'll find that a lot of their stuff comes with free shipping. So there's where you find the boxes. And Carl had mentioned that he couldn't find. I actually didn't understand if he couldn't find the box deals or if he couldn't find the project packs. So if we go to the products and the thin dimensional lumber, that's the page you land on. Thin dimensional lumber sold by the piece. And then here in bold letters, project packs are 10 square feet of the same of one thickness and range from 3 to 10 inches wide, 18 to 46 inches long, and in a variety of species. They include free shipping. So their project packs, let's see here. I can't. For the life of me now, I've done this before, and now that I'm doing this live, I'm having a problem remembering where the project packs are at. And but also they include free shipping, and they also offer a 15% discount if you purchase 2 of the same project pack. So you may actually have to call them. I don't think you do. I just can't remember where the project packs are at right now because I did not refresh my memory before going live like a dum-dum. But they're really, really helpful. If you pick up the phone, you might actually get Rocky on the phone, who's the owner, or Priya, his daughter. Any of those folks there, they're really helpful, and they're more than happy to help you out, pack it up, and get it out pretty darn quick. All right, so that's all the YouTube comments and all the time we're going to wait for everybody to get here. And I'm going to scroll through here now that we've got a good number on hand. Look for any comments or questions regarding what we've already talked about, and then we're gonna look at this, and I'm gonna show you. Unlock that. It's pretty. And they got its feet on it and a smooth bottom. All right, so alrighty, who all's in the building today? We got a lot of folks. I'm not going to call out everybody. I appreciate everybody for showing up. I'm just looking for any questions and or comments. Question mark, when can we plan a field trip to West Penn? Tuesdays and Thursdays, I try to do videos here. And if I have my way, I'm actually recording on Monday, have it finished and uploaded for Tuesday. But my schedule's pretty flexible, except for Saturdays. Saturdays, I got to be here live. So you figure out if you're coming this way. In fact, one of the viewers contacted me this week, said he's going to be down here in North Carolina and was wanting to meet up. I'm probably going to meet up. I don't know if I'm going to make it up to West Penn, but yeah, I'm happy to meet up with you and also talk about some of the headaches of some of these hardwoods. They're beautiful. Some of them can be really problematic. I enjoyed the live stream from West Penn despite the poor streaming quality. Yeah, it was terrible. My hardwood supplier has all the varieties, but not the project packs. Yeah, and the way the reason that they've got all these project packs, a lot of them are like the length of this. It's probably, yes, it's only 19 inches. And most of the shortest board they'll sell typically is 24 inches. So this was an end cut and it wasn't long enough to process into 24 inches, but it's a beautiful piece of wood. So they'll grab these end pieces like this and just strap them up and then sell them off as project packs. Places like Rockler and other box stores, they're not processing their own wood. They're buying it from West Penn. So it's hard for them to come up with pieces like this, or not hard. It's impossible for them to come up with pieces like this because they're not a processor. So I don't know if your wholesaler will have the ability to do something like that. Now, they might could buy the project packs from West Penn and then turn around and sell them to you. But why would you do that? Just get them from West Penn because it's free freight anyway. Chris says one reason for nodes in a group is if you want to check start points are close, probably only useful in complex jobs. Yeah. Ricky H says he went to West Penn this morning to get some wood and saw Haley to check out. Glad you were able to get up there. I don't quite understand this question. Kind of odd. Does wood have rabies or something? Oh, you're talking about? No, actually, if you're talking about the restrictions on not being able to import some of the stuff, they're. I can see that, they don't want to bring in live trees because some stuff they can say is an invasive species, like bamboo. Bamboo's terrible. Kudzu's terrible. And if you're bringing in live trees, I can see that being a problem. But there are some hardwoods that have health issues. There are some of the woods that when you cut it and you produce the dust, people have really bad allergies to them. They're very, very allergic to them and can have bad reactions to them. I don't know. Maybe some of the governments feel like they need to be, watching out for you to make sure you don't get any itches because the wood's itchy, scratchy. I don't know. Yeah, and then Chris points out, no, but they need to be heat treated to certain standards to get all the bugs dead, and those standards vary from country to country. So yeah, I guess you could bring in a critter or two if you're not really lucky. Well, thank you, Moondog. Can I ask a question? Sometimes I try to join two shapes together using the Boolean tool, and the tools to do it are grayed out and won't let me. Any idea why? Sorry, it's off the subject. Well, if you have two shapes and you've got them selected and the Boolean tools are not an option to use, the first thing that comes to mind is they're not closed shapes. If they're not closed shapes, if it's two designs that maybe you imported in and or you've done some editing to them, and if they're open shapes, you cannot use Boolean tools with an open shape. So first thing you would want to do is and it is off topic, but we're going to answer this, Moondog, because you're a longtime viewer and I appreciate your donation today. And let's just take a second. And this is how we all learn. There's somebody else that probably had this exact same problem and they're going, and they forgot to ask or didn't ask. So if we cut over here and we go to LightBurn, I didn't want to go to active presenter and cut that out. Go away. There we go. All right. In fact, we'll just use these two shapes here. If I come right up here to this node and I hit the letter B for break, and I'm going to break this one as well. I don't think that one broke because it wasn't highlighted. There we go. So now that those are broken, see, I don't have my Boolean tools are grayed out. And if I grab this one and I move it to where it's overlapping like so and still select them, my Boolean tools are grayed out. I don't have an option to use the Boolean tools. The nodes are touching each other, but because I broke them apart, they're no longer closed shapes. So the way you can tell, is it a closed shape or not? If you select that piece and then go to edit, if the option to close path is available to you, then it's not a closed path. So you can try using just that closed path, and then you can go right back to it and see, did that work? Edit. Closed path is now grayed. So that closed that path. Closed path does not always work depending on how close the nodes are. You can also select that object, right click. Well, that's convert to a path. It won't let me do it there. So select it, go up to edit, and close path is an option. So I close path and now select those two, and there are my Boolean tools. I can now use my Boolean tools. Moondog, that's usually the most common reason that you have two objects and you can't use Booleans because they're not closed shapes. So right click it or select it, go up to edit and look and see if it's if closed path is an option. If it is, then it is not a closed path, and that's what you got to overcome. Another thing you can try to do is select the two pieces that you're trying to use the Boolean shapes on. It won't let you use the Boolean shapes. Do a 0 offset of those two shapes and delete the original shapes. And when you do, it'll create the two offsets, but it'll create them as a group. If you have, I think it just does it automatically. So ungroup them, select them again, and then you can probably use your Boolean shape or your Boolean tools. So those are the two most common fixes. They were open shapes, and you can close the path or do a 0 offset, delete the originals, and it should work. So once again, thank you for your donation. Question mark, does anyone know of a 3mm hardwood supplier in the UK? I wished I did, Mia. I'd love to get over there and get familiar with a lot of things over there. Aren't they the first few listed? No, those are the box deals. The box deals are 5 different species, and they are set to the dimensions that were listed there in the box deals. The project packs are 10 square feet of one given species. You can tell you say, I want a box of or a project pack of hard maple, and you're going to get 10 square feet of hard maple. But that hard maple I just showed you, that was 3/4 of an inch thick. I got 10 square feet of that. Those were 19-inch pieces. But in that pack, in addition to pieces that were 19 inches long and just under 10 inches wide, I've got pieces that are, close to 5 inches wide, about the same length. They're less than 24 inches, still 3/4 of an inch thick. And then I've got some that are 3 inches, because this would have been, splinter, they would have been processing this down to 3 by 24s, but this is an end cut piece that's not quite 24 inches. So it's 3/4 inch, probably about 19 and 3 inches wide. So you get in the project pack, you get 10 square feet of varying dimensions of one species. But those box deals are 5 different species with very specific sizes. All right. Well, you didn't have to do that, but thank you again. All right. So I'm going to put a bunch of asterisks down here because I got to the bottom. All right. Now, let's talk about my chest. All right. So this was actually my first piece. And sometimes I'm full of myself. Actually, I'm full of myself quite a bit. Sometimes I think too much of my abilities. I should not have done this, but this was going to be a really beautiful box because I made it out of cherry, solid hardwood cherry. But I did not do a lot of things that I should have done. In fact, I'm curious. I'm going to see if any of you guys can recall what I've taught in the past, and can you tell me where I screwed up? Let's see here. Open and nope, that won't work. But if I do this, this will work. And that splinter hurt. Come on, come on. Waiting for DaVinci to load. Here we go. Open, done. New project. Create. And over here, file, import. I'm really curious if anybody is going to be able to tell me what I did wrong. Come down here. All right, so I've got my cherry on the laser bed, and I'm going to be cutting out a box. And let's see here. Is there a way? Yeah, there we go. All right. So switch. All right, so you're seeing that, and I'll play. Okay, Jeff says he found the project packs. It just had to keep loading more, and project packs probably down toward the bottom. Jonathan's guessing that you didn't run a kerf test. And no, that's not it, but Steve's got it. Steve says I did not rotate. Elaborate, Chris. I did not rotate what? Tell these guys and gals what I screwed up. Because we'll move it on down here. There, it's cutting out the slots for the bottom. And there you go. File needs to be rotated 45 degrees. All right, give Steve a cardboard cookie. Ding, ding, ding. John Thompson got it. You didn't rotate 45 degrees. All right. So I'm the one that determined, in order to have a perfectly uniform kerf when you're cutting out a box, if you rotate the design 45 degrees so that your cuts are being done on a diagonal, then because the diode laser has a rectangular spot size, whenever it's now being cut on a 45-degree angle, that spot size is going to be uniform. It's going to be essentially a perfect circle as it's cutting. I had my kerf set correctly, but because I did not rotate the design and rotate my material, I did not have a perfect kerf. See the gap? It did not want to go together because the Y and the X kerf didn't work. So I ruined a beautiful piece of cherry because I didn't do what I told y'all to do. So I'm I'm constantly screwing up, guys. Constantly screwing up. So, but I continued on after I realized what I did. And I said, okay, well, just because once you're committed, what else can you learn from that? No sense in just chunking it. So what else I learned from that was the height of the box wasn't quite tall enough, because I made a box and then I'm going to create a lid on it. And if I'm going to create a lid on it, there wasn't a good place to cut this from an assembly standpoint to keep the lid structural from being compromised, and to keep the bottom all and keep the structural integrity intact. So I needed to make it taller. So I learned more, learned more, several things, but I could have done that with some cheap wood instead of the cherry wood. So I stopped and started over with the new design and did it with the Baltic birch plywood. Still could have had some cheaper material here. This would have been a great basswood for knocking up stuff. But here, it's a solid box, and then use my table saw to cut the top off of it and create a box top. And Mark saying smaller slots and tabs would also help. Yeah, but I'm going to show you another trick that makes the slots and tabs size not irrelevant, but by making them larger like this, and this trick that I'm going to show you, it's really, really cool. Chicago Bob says, not a screw up. It's an example to show us what not to do. Yeah, well, and Chris says, failures are prototypes. These were all prototypes. And actually, I consider this piece actually to be still just a prototype, because there's things that I've learned on this that I will share with you too on this particular hardwood. So that was the second one. And then I went back into the Gravini and made some more, because here, if you look at the size of the slots where I had to cut the top off, and so it got a lot narrower because of the curve of the saw blade. So I didn't like that. So when I designed this box, I designed it in Gravini, and I talked about that in several videos in the past. But come back here, go to Gravini. So Gravini.cz, and then they have an English version /en/laser box online. But if you search for Gravini, Gravini, you'll find it with the English translation if you want English, but they also have it in multiple languages. But I'm working with a piece of zebra wood from my project packs. And so I start with my wood first, not my design first. I start with my wood first, because this is going to tell me, okay, you can only make it this wide. None of your parts can be any wider than this part. So I'm like, okay, well, how big is this? What's the widest that I can make this thing? Well, this piece from this project pack is a little over 7 1/4 inches. So now that I knew that, I used that to make it the maximum width of my box. So, and they work in metric, not in inches. And for those of you who are watching over in the European countries, you guys are in metric already, so it's no big deal. But for you folks here in the US that are stuck on using inches, it's a real simple conversion. And how many quarters are in a dollar? 4 quarters in a dollar. So, and a quarter is 25, right? So 25 times 4 equals $1. Well, instead of 25 times 4 equals $1, if you say 25.4 equals 1 inch, 25.4 millimeters equals 1 inch. 25.4, 24 times 4 equals $1. 25.4 equals 1 inch. 25.4 millimeters makes an inch. So since you're working with Gravini in the metric system, now you know how many inches or how many millimeters are in an inch, 25.4. And you can make this up to 7 inches wide because it's about 7 1/4. Switch, switch, switch. So if you take your calculator and you say 25.4 times 7, you can go up to 177.8 millimeters. And I went with 160 on my max width on this one. Now, I've also talked about in the past the golden ratio. And I learned that from a friend who educated me on how the golden ratio is used everywhere. It's in nature, but it's used in architecture. It's used when they're making furniture. And I think it's a factor of 1.67, 1.68, somewhere in there. It's also how I'm determining what I'm going to mark my products up. If I'm looking for a retail price, if I've got $40 in something, I'd 40 times 1.67. I didn't know it at the time, but that's close to the golden ratio, and that's also how you get your perfect retail price, as far as I'm concerned. But if I've got a known width that it's going to be 160 millimeters wide, if I want to use the golden ratio to help keep things looking as aesthetically pleasing as possible, then I'm going to use factors of the 1.67 or as close to that as possible to determine my other dimensions, my depth and my height. I already know my width. But I went with 160, 80, and 130 on my height, width, and depth. I used 3 millimeters for my thickness, and I used 11 millimeters on my finger width, and then imported that into LightBurn. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and we'll download that again because I've modified it so much. And I need to bring these to my desktop. And that's 5310. New. And let's see here. Go back here. There we go. Import. I'm not going to worry about the insert. 5310, 53. All right. And open. All right. So there is the import from Gravini. I'm going to get rid of the labels. Actually, it's all grouped. So let's ungroup it all. Select all of the blue, get rid of it. All right, the bottom and the top are identical. Two sides are identical. And the other two sides are identical. But I'm going to get rid of these two. I'm going to rotate that one. Put those together. All right. So there is the front and the side of my box. But I'm going to be cutting this, and I want to make my tab. Not only do I want to account for the saw blade so that it doesn't get too weak here, but I also want to keep that gap as uniform as possible in size, just so from a distance, if you do see those slots and tabs, everything looks uniform. It doesn't look out of whack. So here I've got two pieces, but they're not grouped And since they're not grouped, I can select both pieces and show my nodes. I say I can. What are they still? What's going on here, Pickle? Deal. What's the deal, Pickle? Nodes. All right, so I'm not seeing nodes. Why am I not seeing nodes? Edit. No. It is a closed path, so that wasn't the problem. All right, so I'm going to do a zero offset. Zero offset. Delete the original. And now show nodes. And there are my nodes. So I don't know why I couldn't see the nodes to begin with, but that's why instead of spending a whole lot of time trying to figure out, it wasn't an open path. It showed that a closing path was not an option. But instead of spending too much time and trouble of finding out what the problem is, don't look for it. Just do a zero offset, and it usually fixes the problem. Make sure you delete the original. So come back over here and select this one. And when you're in node editing, your selector tool doesn't work, but if you click right on it, you can see it. But I can't see any nodes. But look there. Even though that's just one object, nothing else is selected, there is the option to ungroup up here. So if I zoom in tight on that and say ungroup, now you can see the nodes. Now, there wasn't but one object there, so what was it grouped to? I don't know, but I'm going to move that down, try and select anything else. There's nothing else there. Select that, bring it up here, and let's see now see if it's still a closed shape. Edit. Yeah, it's still a closed path. All right. So align these to each other. They're aligned to the top. Now I'm going to show my nodes. And I'm going to take and I want to have my saw blade come right here through the middle of this slot. My saw blade is going to pass right through there. And the kerf of my saw blade is 3 millimeters. So if I go to my settings and tell my arrow movement to be 3 millimeters, say okay. And now just use my arrow to move up one time. That just moved all of those up 3 millimeters. Now I can Control D, duplicate those. Now I've got my two left sides, my front and my back. And that one area, that one slot, that one tab is 3 millimeters larger, so that when I assemble it, I can use my saw to cut right down through there to cut that box top off. And now everything will be back to symmetrical. All right, so let's look here. Any questions, comments, other, let's see. Yeah, Mark, it showed that they were grouped, but there was nothing there. That was really crazy. But doing a zero offset, that's, like without even looking for the problem. Zero offset, delete the original, and it solved its issue. I did see it was grouped after the, yep, and you've seen it too, ungrouped. But there was nothing grouped. There weren't multiple items there. That's something screwy with Gravini, with the way that put those together. I don't know. Could you use the laser to cut the box by standing it up on its edge? If you've got the clearance for it. You couldn't do it with the Rolly without taking the bottom out of it, and then I still don't think you'd have the clearance because she's 7+ odd inches. I'm on my feet, 3D printed feet. I don't know. I don't know if you could or not. I use, and most people who make boxes this way, they just use their table saw on the fence. So once you've got the assembled piece, you just set your table saw up and run it down, flip it over, run it down, flip it over, run it down, flip it over, run it down, and your box top falls off. Ed says, instead of using a saw, could you have drawn a line? Uh, Ed, yes, you probably could have done that, created that line in the design and went ahead and cut it right then. Problem with that is whenever you're doing your finish work, I actually finished all of my edges and everything before I cut my box top off. And it's just easier to work with glued up as a solid box instead of having just this lid now that you're trying to work with, and then the bottom you're trying to work with. Yeah, guys, there's never one way to do something. In LightBurn or with woodworking, there are always multiple ways to attack it. I'm just showing you what I did and what I found to be the easiest way for how this brain functions. There's always multiple ways you can do it. And like I said, just for the ease of convenience. And another thing that I learned working with this zebra wood is, I love the look of this. In fact, this isn't even the finished finish that I would put on it. I haven't sanded this and applied any additional coats yet. If you could see this in person, it's still full of hips and valleys and pits because the wood has got all of that in it. So this still requires a lot of sanding and some more applications to get it looking like it's acrylic covered or epoxy covered. And it's just easier to work with if you working with a solid cube, a solid box. But this zebra wood does not burn or cut well at all. It does. The lighter wood, I guess more like the pulp wood and the dark grains, the pulp wood cuts really, really easy. And then the grains don't want to cut at all. To cut this square out, I think I did 4 passes on a 30-watt diode at 380 millimeters a second or minute, 380 millimeters a minute. And the edges of it are very porous. And on the end grain, where you have you can see the end grain, it's like a roller coaster when you look at it. It's terrible. And in fact, you can see there where it's burnt down the edges. The pulp wood will actually just continue to burn. It does not cut with precision. And that's a characteristic of the wood. And that's what I was going to say. When you're working with the hardwoods and some of these exotics, you have to do a lot of testing and get really familiar with the wood to know what it's going to do with your laser when you do what you do with your laser, so you can have your best outcome. And what I learned with this project, and why I say this is still just a prototype, I wanted to sand away all of the burnt edges, but some of the edges, because of the way this wood cuts, it was impossible to get it all gone. In fact, I tried here to get it all gone on the backside, so much so that I almost sanded the fingers completely away. And that was a fitment issue. I was able to fix it. But instead of what I would do on the next one, using zebra wood, if it's 3 millimeter material, then I'm going to set my slots and tabs to 4 millimeters so that the slots or the tabs are going to be proud. Plenty of room to go in, and the tabs are going to be really proud. And then I can probably just take them to a router and then just and be done with it. And I'll be routing away all of the burnt edges and have a much better precision fit, because I'm a millimeter even deeper away from those burnt uneven edges, so I can joints that look like that. So if you're and one of my friends, I think he called that a pillow top design, where you round over the top edges, and that's what I was going for on all of the sides, all of the joints, and I did that hand sanding it instead of using the router because it was so thin and so delicate. But make those fingers and those tabs and slots larger than your material, then you can actually use the mechanical router and hopefully have a much cleaner fit. And I will do that again and show you what that looks like in one of the upcoming videos. Say, hey, remember I was talking about doing that? Well, here's the result. So I'll show you what happens when I do that. Mark says sometimes Gravini will generate files with all the line segments separate, so you end up with a bunch of single lines. Kind of bizarre. I haven't encountered that yet, but this wasn't what that was. So yeah, I'm guessing sometimes you can get some different outcomes. But the one big takeaway from all of this is a zero offset will usually fix any of those problems. And yeah, Chris is saying about a router. Yeah, I didn't go with the router because this was only 3 millimeters to begin with, and with the way these edges burnt, I knew that if I was to try and do a router, it might take away too much material and do like this did on the back corner here, this back one. So I opted to hand sand it. I do have a DA, and I did use a DA to do some of the heavy lifting, but to get it really as nice a finish as I want, I just did it by hand. Mark says, yeah, great idea on leaving the tabs proud and flush trimming them. Sanding end grains presents so many issues. Yep. And especially, and that the end grains are the ones that were the most problematic on this, because end grains are with any of your woods are going to be more problematic. But with the way that this material cut, the end grains are the ones. It's like here, when going across the grain, it did give a cleaner cut. But the edge grains, it is really, and you can't really see it that because my camera doesn't focus that well when I go in. But the end grains are terrible. Let's see here. Jeff says, just use 1/4-inch Baltic birch and laser engrave your own zebra wood pattern. Yeah, but then you still, with it being the Baltic birch plywood, you're not going to be able to get those nice fingers like that. You'll see the plies, which would be different. Wouldn't be terrible, but just be a different look. All right. So I showed you the trick. You make your box where you're going to put your top. Stretch that tab and slot by the size of your kerf on your saw. I use a table saw, and then when you go to put it together, all those fingers and tabs are going to line up nice and even. For the inside, so I've got nice clean inside, but yet the bottom, I've got the slots and tabs for the feet to pop into. So how did I get it nice and pretty? A simple insert. So there's your slots and tabs. And now this could work in multiple ways. You could actually take and put a ring inside the outermost perimeter that was 3 millimeters thick, so that when you put this in there, it would sit on that outer frame. So you would have a false bottom. So then you could take and actually hide stuff inside the box that would be underneath that false bottom. So people, if they were actually looking to steal your stuff, they open it up and say, oh, it's just costume jewelry. Well, they didn't know that you've got a false bottom, and that's where all your millions of dollars was at. Let's see here. And another thing that I would, because of the way this burns, it'd be a little bit more difficult. But on some of my boxes, my box designs, when I'm going to be working with hardware and I have the hardware in advance, and I know that this is where I'm going to put 2 hinges, I'm going to put my handles here, I will actually use the laser to pre-drill. I'll measure where my holes need to be, the distances and all that, and then I can use the laser to pre-drill for my wood screws. It makes it a whole lot easier when it comes time to put everything together. Mark says, yeah, he add a felt pad on the bottom to hide the slots. And I thought about doing, I instead of felt, because this is such a potentially was going to be such a pretty box, I was going to do a satin lining because I got lots of satin here. I was going to do a satin lining with that. And then a flocking is another option because, you know, a lot of people just love to flock and they like the way the flocking looks and feels. So flocking is always an option. A felt bottom, and I've got some black felt here that I could have just cut out, self-adhesive felt, peel them off, stick it in the bottom. But I just like the wood. I like the way it looks. So I didn't want to cover any of that up. I didn't want to hide any of it. I wanted to accentuate it. All right. Creating slots and tabs. So this is the 2 sides. These are the top and the bottom. And I went with the option of bringing the feet way inside so that whenever this is sitting on top of your desktop or your dresser or whatever, the legs are far enough in that you don't really even see them. And it kind of gives the illusion of it floating or, you know, lifted off the top of your nightstand, desktop, whatever. So this is 160 by 130. So I created a toolpath that was going to be 160 by 130. Put that on a toolpath. And then I held my control button and just shrank that down until I got, okay, I said, okay, that looked pretty good. Now center it up. And that's where I'll put my slots and tabs. Now, I think they were 11 millimeters by 3 millimeters. Yep. So 11 by 3 would be the size of my slot. And another thing that from prototype 1 to prototype 2, and something I always forget to do is to take into consideration the 2 that have the 2 that have the slots sticking out on the ends, taking that into consideration as being part of the overall length of that leg. So I end up making the first ones, I always end up making those wrong too, and then have to go back and fix it. But let's see here. Do an array, columns. Where are you at? Not shift by half, reverse direction. Let's do 11 millimeter. There we go. And say okay. Those are grouped. Align it to the top and to the center. Control D, duplicate those and align them to the bottom. Cut path. And then do the same thing on the side over here. And that would be the position for using my legs. And then for the legs, for the actual legs themselves, I did them, I think, at about 15 millimeters tall. And to give them some contour and some shape, Uh, 97.65. Select that and then go into, I got to convert it to a path because it's a rectangle. Convert to a path. Show my nodes. Then come in here. I put a node in the middle, and then middle again, and then middle again, and then middle and middle there. Now I can delete this one and delete this one. Hover over this one and hit the letter S for smooth. And now I'm going to go back to my settings and change my arrow movement to 1 millimeter. Say OK. Select that one node and move up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I would put my slot and tab on the end of this, whichever it was going to be, a slot and tab. And then do the same thing for the height and width of that. And then I've got, a nice little leg that's got some contour, some shape to it. Hopefully you're not going to be seeing them much anyway, because the way with them being inset, they're going to be out of sight when they're sitting on top of your nightstand, dresser, whatever. All right. Any questions, comments? Mark says that his last attempt at flocking was a flocking disaster. Legs far enough in so a pin can roll under them. There you go, and be out of sight. And where'd that pin go? I just had it. Wow, what a rainstorm just rolled through. Maybe at your house. I heard a crack of thunder, but I never had any rain come through. So that was a really small cell. So for y'all that don't know, I'm here and Jack's here. We're real close together. But no, I didn't have any rainfall. I heard the thunder, and my dog moved over here. She's within 2 feet of me because she don't like thunder, but no rain. Craig says, why wouldn't you want to make them full length so it doesn't wobble? It's not going to wobble. And you could, I mean, if you want to see them, you could, but I didn't want to see them. I wanted it when it's sitting on the desk to be, and you're standing above it and looking down on it. You don't see those legs. All you see is the box kind of hovering on top of your dresser. And this is really small. And if you've made them right and you've installed them right, it's not going to wobble. It ain't going anywhere. No, Sparky, you didn't miss a thing. We're just getting started. In fact, not only are we just getting started, we're wrapping this up. So we're an hour 18 in. Anybody got any questions or comments? Like Moondog had one that was, he said, hey, man, I'm sorry, this is off topic. But hey, it's a simple, easy answer. And I even had to use what I suggested to him in this demonstration. Let's see. Start over like last week. Yeah. Okay. We're going to start all over. No, we're not. Because I'm tired and I'm going to go get some rest. Hey, Hobo, I want to know. Let's see. Oh, okay. I know you're waiting for Milmage. I have heard of Hiromoto. It's open source, nothing to download. It does laser CNC. I have not heard of Hiromoto. And honestly, Brandon, I was hoping that Milmage was going to be a lot like LightBurn, so that my learning curve would be reduced greatly. But because they're such different animals, the CNC and the laser, and you're working with, now another axis, not just X and Y, but also Z, I think there's going to be a lot more differences to Milmage and LightBurn than I was originally hoping for. So and they keep putting it off, keep putting it off, and keep putting it off. And for them to be putting it off as much as they are, I can't help but think that they're probably still struggling with getting as many bugs out of it as they'd like before they even release it to the general public. Um, I've seen Milmage, and it's the learning curve is going to be greater than I thought, than I had hoped. So I've also what's the other one that you guys like? The is it Fusion 360 for CNC? So I think I may end up biting the bullet if I'm going to have a steep learning curve. I may go that route. I don't know. Questions, comments, comments. Due end of year now. They keep adding stuff to be tested. Oh yeah. Um. So they're putting it all the way out to the end of this year. It was going to be the end of first quarter. Now they're putting it out at the end of the year. Here they have, and I've got it. I've got it, and I've looked at it and played with it. And I don't have the most recent version, but I've played with a few different ones. I've played with Easel. I've played with a couple of others, and it's a whole. I was intimidated like no one's business by LightBurn when I first started this. My first tool was the X tool, which I hate saying, but and at that time they didn't even have the what is it called now, the creative space or whatever, the XCS. They didn't have that then. They had some simple simple program, and I'm like, okay, well, this is too limiting. There was you couldn't do anything with it besides bring in a star or a square, or it was so handicapped by it. And everybody that I looked at, the industry standard was LightBurn, and so I sucked it up, bit the bullet, started the YouTube channel, going, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing. Do not try to duplicate, emulate, simulate in any way anything that I'm doing. I am not responsible for any lost digits or fingers, eyes, toes. Try this at your own risk, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And slowly progressed to where I got a pretty good handle on it. And I'm encouraging you to do what I'm doing, and try these things out because they work well for me. But the programs that I've worked with, the CNC, the ones that the free ones that were out there, they put me in mind of the very first software that Xtool came out with that handicapped you so bad that you weren't able to be creative with it. So that's why I have to probably bite the bullet and start paying for some software. And I think someone said there is a free kind of version of Fusion 360 out there, but I have not gone down the path to start wrapping my brain around that yet. Let's see. Chris says, I think that a lot of people are expecting Milmage to be a finished product. It will basically be 2D and 2.5D to start with. Yeah, they have a working version, and a lot of stuff they had up at LBX. They had a lot of stuff there that was all cut out using Milmage, and they were proud of it and showing off all the stuff they were doing. So it has some capabilities, but not what I was hoping for it to be. And Jack says, yeah, he loves Fusion and he uses it for free. And I think I've downloaded the free version. I just haven't played with it with the actual CNC yet. And I looked at VCarve, but isn't VCarve a bit expensive? And if it's and I know a lot of them out there, some of them have free versions that are those slightly handicapped, or you don't get all the good stuff until you pay their $25, $30 a month, and some of them are hundreds of dollars a month. And I'm like, yeah, I ain't doing all that. All right. Yeah, Jack says V-carb is very pricey. He has it too. Yeah, I'm and guys, I don't. In fact, I was thinking about this before I went live. Well, they what's the saying about those who can't teach, or coach. So I'm not. I can't. I'm not, and I can't aren't correct. I don't want to. I don't want to produce product, set up and go to craft shows and deal with people. I love talking to all 75 of you guys that are here now and chatting and helping and show you things. But I wouldn't want to see 20 of you at the same time at my craft booth. I don't want to deal with people in public anymore. I did that my whole life. I don't want to do it anymore. So while I will continue to develop this box and work with cherry and the zebra wood and some walnuts and some all kinds of different, and make some really nice elaborate boxes. Problem is, in today's world, you can go buy a box that looks something kind of like that at the Dollar Tree for $5. Well, with the zebra wood and the hardware and the time and the developing, the processing, the hand sanding, and even if I used machines, and you're talking about $80, $100 box. I enjoy doing it, so I'll make one or two and then show you what I do to how I do it. And if you want to start making them and go out and selling them, hey, great, more power to you. But I don't want to do that anymore, and so I will teach. All right. So Sharon's bailing. Thank you for coming, Sharon. Appreciate you. Jack says I'm using Blender. It's free. I can't do Aspire yet. Yep. All right, guys. It's an hour 30 in here. We're going to say our salutes and salutations, and just for grins and giggles, I haven't incorporated this into an intro yet, but I'm thinking about maybe switching up my intro and having some of my projects and some do a slideshow of all the different fun things that I've created and incorporate it with my theme song. But here we go. It's you got to have a rollie, guys. Oh, didn't mean for it to loop. I gotta stop that. Didn't for it to loop. Sorry about that. Didn't want to go over. Steve asked a question before we get out of here. Is there a source to go to that will give me info on what types of wood do well with the lasers and engraving and cutting? And no, not that I'm aware of. Not any experience. And it's like I love the look of the zebra wood and all of those exotic grains, but it does not engrave well at all. In fact, where did I put that? Did I toss it? Yep, here we go. Now this is ash. And I'm going to be doing an inlay, and I'm probably not going to be using the ash now. And this I've already ran through the planer, so over half of it's been planed away. And I don't know how well you can see that, but those grains in that ash, how high those are, how raised up that is, it did not burn evenly at all. And that's the grain in the wood that you wouldn't have that kind of result with the plywood, but you do with hardwoods. And some are worse than others. And this, I was able to burn it away and deep enough that I could still, in fact, there's a practice inlay there with the Paduke. And that's why I put my inlays in, and also just testing the planer to see how it would do with the planer. But trying to do that with the zebra wood, and you're trying to not even doing inlays, you're just going to engrave it, you get this. You get these hips and valleys with those exotic grains. The more pronounced and darker and grain, the heavier the grains you got, typically the less friendly it is for engraving or creating pockets. So that's why this is going to do really, really well, because that's the maple, and you can't really see hardly any grains in that at all. So that's going to be really good for receiving a pocket for doing inlays. But there's no chart or anything that I've seen that just says, hey, this is the best way to go. I just get what I like and start playing with it and test. And your lasers are going to give you different results: 10 watt, 20 watt, 30 watt, 40 watt, 70 watts. If you got the new 70 watts out there. Yep. Some wood just does not want to engrave. Wingate. Don't want to cut, don't want to engrave. You can get some stuff that's just way, 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 way hard. Craig says, wait, did you inlay it and then run it through a planer? I sure did. Just wanted to see what it would do. And this one, this was a glue issue. If I would have waited and not been so impatient, it would have worked flawlessly. But because I only waited 45 minutes instead of 24 hours, it tore out a little part of the Y, and it just grabbed it and pulled it out because that was a glue up issue. Had I let it longer, waited 24 hours, it would have worked fine. And no, I'm not actually advertising for Tony's. I'm actually making this for them. They've got a sign down there, the neon sign in there that's got the big snow cone. And so I was just looking at, and people ask me where inspirations come from, where I get the ideas. I seen that neon sign. I said, man, that would look cool as several different species in an inlay. And I said, you know what? I bet the Colettas would like that too. So I figured, what? It'll be great info. I'll, be able to create a video, show how to do it, how the inlays work. And then I'll just say, here you go. Merry Christmas. And who knows, maybe I'll get a free milkshake or two. All right. We're an hour and 35 in. We've done our outro solo. We're out of here. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit the subscription button. Like and share the videos. In fact, I'm just curious. Did we hit 9,000 yet? We're knocking all over the door of 9,000. I want to be at 10,000 subscribers before the second anniversary. That's my goal. Let's see here. Dashboard update. We're at 89.98. Let's refresh. Nope. So 2 of you who are not subscribed, go subscribe right now. Hit that subscription button. Subscribe to the channel. Let's put it over 9,000. And I've got 2 months to hit 10,000. So guys, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. And Chicago Bob says, go gold. Yes, thank you for the patrons. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your patience over the last few weeks while I've been recuperating. But thank you for your support, patrons. And as always, thank you for hanging out and tuning in with us. But go subscribe and share this channel. If you're in groups, if you're in laser groups other than Hobo with Wood group on Facebook and the Rolly Automation group, if you're in Facebook groups that are I've not seen and I'm not participating in, hey, share these videos with your Facebook groups. Help me get some exposure and help me get to that 10,000 mark before the anniversary. I'm going to give you guys a free Rolly. Somebody's going to get a free Rolly laser. I mean, least you can do is help get that subscription to 10,000 before now and then. What's Mark saying? You can make your own router inlay templates with your laser if you want to inlay in difficult burning wood. Yeah, I don't quite. Yeah, I get the idea of the template, but yeah, I don't quite follow you 100% there. But typically, this was the first time I've tried doing the machine. All right. Now I'm leaving. I'm gone. You guys have enjoyed the rest of your weekend, and I will see you next week with some videos, and we'll see you next Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. For all those that are up late hanging out, thank you. And for those here in the East Coast or the U.S., thank you. Yeah, the planer. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. It just left me. This was the first time using the planer. All right, guys. Enjoy your weekend. I'm out.